Ukraine drones striking Russia's energy infrastructure, hitting an oil pumping station at one of the world's longest pipelines. This forced partial shutdowns. Russia firing more than 600 drones and missiles in recent days. 9 people reportedly killed. A U.S.-owned factory in western Ukraine was also struck. This morning, Russia's foreign minister says that no Putin-Zelenskyy summit is planned yet. But the Russian president is ready to meet Zelenskyy when an agenda is set. To help us go through all of this, AEI non-resident senior fellow, Tufts University associate professor of political science and a former Defense Department policy advisor, Michael Beckley. Michael, good morning. So, all of this is happening just 1 week exactly after President Trump went to Alaska to meet with Vladimir Putin. On Monday, you had President Zelenskyy and a host of European leaders in that unprecedented meeting at the White House. Help us go through all of this, and if you think that Putin has changed his tune, or if he never meant to commit to meeting Zelenskyy.
Cheryl, unfortunately, I think it's the latter. I think these talks were always a con from Putin's perspective, because he, at the end of the day, wants all of Ukraine, and he doesn't want the war to end because it's basically become a war of attrition. And he says, Russia has 4 times the population, 10 times the economy of Ukraine, and so they can just outlast them. And unfortunately, the United States and Europe don't have a lot of leverage over Putin at the moment, because the United States, the Trump administration, has made pretty clear this is not a vital U.S. interest, and they may not participate in security guarantees. And the Europeans just lack the capability to fully reinforce Ukraine. So unfortunately, until the United States and its allies get more leverage over Russia, really inflict costs on Putin, for him, he can draw this out and probably is still fairly optimistic about his chances of getting even more the longer the fighting continues.
Well, then what do you make of this coalition of the willing, as it's called? And this is the team that's being led by Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is a piece of this. Joint Chiefs Chairman General Dan Kane. I mean, these really do seem to be the names, the powerful names that are driving foreign policy. Do you think that behind the scenes, the back channel, whether it's meetings with our EU allies, whether it's NATO, do you think that there is a path forward with that team?
I think there is a potential path forward, and there's certainly parts of the Trump administration that want a more forward-leaning U.S. involvement in the conflict to further back Ukraine and to work with the Europeans there. But there's also, of course, the competing interest of not wanting the United States to get sucked into a potential quagmire in Eastern Europe, especially when there's tensions rising in the Indo-Pacific with China. So we'll have to see how this ultimately plays out. And at the end of the day, it's President Trump's call. He seems to be coming around to the idea that the United States needs to up its leverage. It needs to give Ukraine offensive forces in order to inflict costs on Russia, but we'll have to see what the president ultimately decides.
Yeah, well, certainly another piece of this is the tariffs that are coming from President Trump and this push at India to rethink their energy deal with the Russians. Indian Prime Minister Modi did turn to China and Russia for alternatives. He's actually visiting China later this month. And then Putin is planning now to go to India, Michael. I want to get your thoughts on all of that. I mean, it seems that Modi is moving away from the United States, not towards the United States.
Yeah, and that's really unfortunate, because the Trump administration has made very clear China is the main adversary. They're the threat both to the American economy as well as to the U.S. military. And so India would be the ideal ally in this, a place that you could shift economic production to, and a potential military ally, because India has a long-standing border dispute with China up in the Himalayas. Every dollar, every soldier that China has to allocate there is one less they can use in the Indo-Pacific, where American interests mainly lie. But unfortunately, right now, the United States is imposing tariffs on India, but not doing the same on China and the sanctions with regard to purchasing Russian oil. And so the U.S. is pushing India away. I can't see India ever fully siding with the Chinese, but if they're just neutral, then that also, I think, would count as a loss for the United States, just given the potential of India to be a crucial ally in this broader struggle.
Yeah, well, certainly those negotiations, we hope, are going to get picked back up in the middle of everything, at least especially with the EU deal now being closed and signed. So China is also really expanding on the nuclear side. They've been building hundreds of these new missile silos and racing towards more than 1,000 warheads by 2030. That's their goal. Experts are saying that Beijing's buildup, all of this is because Xi Jinping is pushing the military to prepare for an invasion of Taiwan. Could be 2027, hard to say. North Korea reportedly is also causing some discontent right now because they've got this secret missile base, which is just 17 miles from the border of China. That could house nuclear-capable ballistic missiles that could reach the U.S. mainland. And there are several researchers that say this is a direct threat to East Asia and to the United States. What is your reaction to that?
It's a threat to the United States, even if there isn't a Chinese invasion of Taiwan, because China is essentially copying Russia's playbook. They saw how in the war in Ukraine, when Putin would rattle the nuclear saber, it really induced a lot of caution from the Americans and the Europeans. And so China, like Russia, ultimately wants to redraw the map of its region. That means encroaching or taking over territory from its neighbors. And their longstanding problem has always been the fear of U.S. conventional forces getting in the way and intervening. And so their solution is to use nuclear threats to deter that U.S. conventional intervention, just on the logic that if the U.S. is willing to risk Okinawa, it's to save Taiwan. It won't be willing to risk Los Angeles or Washington, D.C. to do so. So that's why you're seeing this massive nuclear buildup in China. It's also similar for North Korea. I mean, nuclear weapons are the Kim dynasty's survival card. That's their insurance policy against a U.S. or South Korean conventional attack. It's also just been their main tool of extortion. That's how they've extorted tens of billions of dollars in aid over the last 30 years or so. And so their fundamental problem is they have a very small nuclear arsenal, so they have to worry the Americans could potentially wipe it out. So what they've done is they put this new base right next to the Chinese border, because now the Americans have to worry if they strike that base, it might bring China into the fight in the same way that you saw in the original Korean War. So this just underscores how this Russia, China, North Korea, Iran axis, even if they're not tight allies,
right,
can really impose severe challenges for the U.S.
It is very troubling, these countries and these relationships that they're forming and continue to form. Michael Beckley, thank you so much for the commentary. Really appreciate it this morning. We want to get back